Hi there everyone, I'm Dani, and welcome to this episode of All Monsters Go to Space. Today I'm doing a video on the Greek goddess Hestia, requested by Keaton. She's the goddess of the hearth, all domestic duties, the home, family, architecture, and even the state. Her Roman counterpart is Vesta, who shares most of the same attributes. She's described as middle-aged, with a modest personality and modestly dressed, wearing a veil and carrying a staff or a flowered branch, or sometimes even a kettle. She would be depicted in art and literature as standing with these items or sat on a plain wooden throne with a white woolen cushion, sometimes by a large fire or fireplace. She's also said to be one of the most powerful deities and is also exceedingly kind. Her connection to architecture has come from her link to the hearth, as she presides over the invention of good home building, and most homes are built around their hearths. Her associated animal is the pig, and at first I couldn't find a reason as to why, but then I stumbled upon a little tidbit of information. It was pig fat that was used to keep the great fire burning in Olympus, the home of the gods, and since fires were sacred to Hestia, by association now too were pigs. Donkeys also play a part in her mythology, but we will get to that later in the video. Since fire was at the heart of the home, and anywhere really, cooking bread, meals, and feasts were classed as being under her domain, and because of this, she was always given the first and last drops of wine and a small portion of food, as well as sacrifices which consisted specifically of 1-year-old cows. Now, Hestia is a slightly curious case, as she is both the eldest and youngest child of Cronus and Rhea. As the myth goes, she was eaten by her father as he feared being overthrown by his children due to a prophecy, along with her other siblings in age order, so she was eaten first, and when Zeus, who had escaped because of his mother's intervening, made him throw up, she was the last to come out. Gross, I know. Her siblings from this pairing are Zeus, Demeter, Hades, Poseidon, and Hera. She does also have a half-brother from her father Chiron, who was the wisest of the centaurs and a healer. Another thing to note, Hestia is one of the few virginal goddesses along with Artemis, Athena, and Iphigenia. Both Apollo and Poseidon were attracted to her and pursued her, but she had no interest whatsoever, so she swore upon the head of her brother Zeus that she would never marry and always remain a virgin. He was so moved by her vow that he gave her the high honor of having a place within the 12 chief gods, and she would have the first and richest portion of the offerings. There was also a story in mythology where her virginity was put at risk. Priapus, the god of fertility, was drunk at a feast. He saw her sleeping and attempted to assault her, but a nearby donkey brayed and woke her and the rest of the party in time, and Priapus was chased away. This myth has led to donkeys having a rest day and being draped in garlands on Hestia's feast day. From what I could find, this is around June 9th. This is one of the very few myths that she actually features in. She appears in so few because she never leaves her home at Delphi, where she tends to the eternal fire. Now, it seems it wasn't throughout the whole of Greece that made sacrifices to Hestia. In the 14th Odyssey book by Homer, he wrote that the loyal swineherd Eumaeus started his master's feast by taking tufts of fur from a boar, throwing them into the fire, and offering a prayer to all powers. The meat was then carved into 7 pieces, one of which was offered to Hermes and another to the forest nymphs. The hearth of Prytaneum, the seat of government, or the central hub as it were, was her official sanctuary, and whenever a new settlement was founded, a flame was taken from this central hearth and carried to the new city to light the hearth there. Within the home, the hearth wasn't necessarily an actual fireplace like we may think of, but would have been a portable type of brazier that would normally be placed at the center of the home. If a hearth fire was to ever go out, it couldn't just be relit again, and if this were to happen within a household or a public place like a temple, it was seen as a dereliction of duty, and it could only be relit by using one of 2 ways: with a burning glass, which was said to be taking fire from the sun, or by using friction. There were times, though, that required the fire to be extinguished, like if there was a death in the family, or when the Persians invaded Greece in the 5th century BCE. The heads at Delphi sent out an order that all the public hearths had to be extinguished, as they were now an empire. They were then purified later and relit from the main hearth at Delphi. A fun little tradition I did find concerning the hearth of a home is that brides and new members to the house were brought before the hearth and showered in figs and nuts, and I think this might be the precursor to throwing rice and confetti over a married couple. Now going back to her place amongst the 12 chief gods. When Dionysus was born, there was an issue, as there couldn't be 13 chief gods. 13 was considered to be an unlucky number, so as the oldest, she chose to avoid conflict by willingly stepping down and allowed the party god to take his place. Hestia didn't actually have too many shrines or temples, since all hearths were places of worship for her, but she did have those at the Prytaneum, which was the common hearth of the state, and at the Bouleuterium, the council house. It would have been here that civic functions and local governmental business was held. All the fires would be tended to mainly by women, but especially unmarried women, and each household was taken care of by the female head of the house if there was one. In the council buildings, it was the duty of the holder of civic office to tend to it. Later in the Greek period, the town's hearth would be tended to by the whole community, but again mainly the unmarried women. At the hearth of the Prytaneum there was a statue of Hestia. At the theatre of Dionysus in Athens there were seats reserved for the priests of Hestia, and there were free-standing temples for her in Ermione and Sparta, in Olympus and Andros. Piraeus, Alemos, Croconide, and Eleusis, all once cities within Athens, had cults worshipping her, but in Kos and Naucratis it was forbidden for women to take part, since they were connected to politics of which only men could participate at this time. Hestia has always been one of my favourite Greek gods. Maybe I relate to the never leaving home part. Well, that's it for this video. Thank you again to Keaton for the request. I hope you all enjoyed. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and click the notification bell if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next video, in the comment section and on Twitter.